everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today is the update for No Pan Left Behind, where I'm trying to use all of the shadows that I have in my collection this year, at least once. So I have drawn all of my palettes and all of my shadows in this notebook, and as I'm using them, I am coloring them in. So this month was the color green. You can barely see it. I'm using a very light colored pencil, so it's not really easy to see, but I have made it digital. So I will show you what it looks like now. So the month of March was green. So here's the overview of all of my palettes, all of these shadows that I've used in January, February, and March. So I have counted the total amount of shadows that I've used this month. I had to count 3 times because I was sure I had miscounted this. But this month I've used a total of 91 eyeshadows. That is my biggest number yet. I did not know. I honestly thought that it was going to get harder to use my shadows as I'm getting less and less options, but this month has proven to be a good month, I think. So yeah, we're at 91 for this month. If I remember correctly, I have to use about 46 or 48 shadows a month to complete this goal, so I'm ahead. In January I used 70, in February I used 68, and now I've used 91, so I'm ahead of myself for the amount of shadows that I have to use monthly, but that's okay because I feel like it will buy me some, not time, room to maybe slack on it further on in the project, so I'm okay with that. I did have quite a couple of palettes in projects to either do No Pan Left Behind, or I have them in my Pan eyeshadows, and that way I had them out and I was like, I'm gonna get No Pan Left Behind done now that the palette is out. So I have completed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 palettes this month, and I did not complete the whole palette in 1 month. So all of them had use before, and I just completed the palette this month. I'm gonna start with my Shrek X Revolution palette. This was in my #beauty chest project. If you've seen the update, I will link it. You know that I've completed this. This is what that palette looked like. I had to use 12 shadows to complete No Pan Left Behind, and I've completed this No Pan Left Behind over the course of 3 months. Then also in that project I had my Beauty Bay Earthy palette. This one I needed to No Pan Left Behind for that project. I had already used this shadow in January. That was outside of this project, so I've used it again, but I've used the remainder of the shadows, so this palette is also complete. And then last month I touched on some eyeshadows that I was working on in Pamela's eyeshadows. The update will be going live before this video. I have to film it still, so I will link it in the cards. But the first palette that I was working on was the Milani Gilded Terra. I was working on 1 shadow to hit pan in, and I had, let me count, I had 8 shadows left to use out of this palette, which I did. It was mainly the purples right here, and then this row of like bronzy shades. So I think, if I remember correctly, I did 1 look with all of these bronzes on the lid, and then I did a purple line under my eyes, and that was this palette complete. So that's nice, this is complete. Then I also had 1 shadow in from my Juicy Place Magic Mini palette. I had 14 shades out of this palette yet to use. I had already used these 2, and the rest I still needed to use. So I did that as well. I did about 3 or 4 looks, I want to say. A kind of like nude look, pink and purple. And then I did green, and then I did gold and the orange and this pink for like a sunset type of look with a blue liner. And that was this palette complete. Then I was also working on my ABH Nervina palette, but I did not complete that No Pan Left Behind yet. I still have to use all of the purples. Purple just seems to be not my favorite color to use on my eyes. This is what mine looks like. So I still have to use this shadow, this one, and that one. So I could put it in one look. I just haven't done that look yet. I don't know. I didn't feel like it. So that one. And my Project Level Up palette is the Scooby-Doo Glam Light palette. And in this one I also still have to use the purple row. It's just purples. The purples are difficult. So I still have to use the purple row to complete No Pan Left Behind. But since it is my Project Level Up palette, I'm sure that I will have done that in the next month. Those two should be done next month. I'm just gonna keep them in this project. I don't know, I have them out, so I'm sure I can complete that. And then one other palette that I didn't necessarily touch on last update, but it was in my Pan Those eyeshadows, was this Kimchi orange palette. It's called Orange. I was working on one shade for Pan Those eyeshadows. Can you guess which one it was? And I still needed to use a couple of shadows out of here to complete No Pan Left Behind. Actually, all of them except for the one that was in Pan Those eyeshadows. So I have used all of these shades too. I've done a couple of orange looks. I really enjoy this palette because I love oranges. Maybe you can see I love oranges and yellows, and this was not hard to use. The only one I was a little bit, well, not afraid of, but I was like, I don't know when I'm gonna use that, was the glitter. But I had a party around Easter, so it was perfect. I did a nice shimmery multi-chrome from my computer shop on the lid, and I topped it with this glitter, which worked perfectly. So I have also completed this palette for No Pan Left Behind. So for next month, I have not yet filmed my Pan Those eyeshadows update. If you're seeing this, it has already been uploaded, but I still have to film that. I'm gonna do that in, I think, 2 days. So I'm not really sure what is gonna be rolled in to that project. Honestly, I would like to, if I roll in a palette that I've not yet completed for No Pan Left Behind, just work on that entire palette since it is out already for a shadow that I have to hit pan on, if you know what I mean. Currently, I do still have the Juvia's Place Zulu palette in the mix, and I know for a fact it's gonna stay in because I have not yet hit pan on that shadow. So I'm thinking I will do No Pan Left Behind on this palette for sure. It is appropriate for spring and slightly getting ready for summer. I mean, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I cannot wait for summer. So this palette, I feel like I could easily do No Pan Left Behind on this month in April. So we're gonna try that. And then it will totally depend on what eyeshadows I will roll into my Pan Those eyeshadows. I think it's easiest, as I've done this last month, to work on the palettes that are in my Pan Those eyeshadows anyway. So as I'm trying to hit pan on one of the shades out of that palette, I will try to do No Pan Left Behind on the entire palette. Again, I don't know yet what is going to be rolled in, but I will be working on that. And then the last thing, I did add a palette into my collection. This I made myself. These are some Glam Shop singles. If you have not seen the haul of Glam Shop, I will also link that in the cards. I'm using this already. It is April as I'm filming this. I've used some shadows today from this palette, so this will be not difficult to do No Pan Left Behind on. Also, someone asked for a tutorial with these shadows, so I will definitely film that. So this should also be done next month. And then that is it for the update. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will hopefully see you in one of my next videos. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.